Welcome to the Ancient Coin Podcast with Aaron Berk, a show about ancient coins from the viewpoint of a seasoned professional with nearly 30 years' experience. Here's Aaron Berk and Mike Nodelman on the Ancient Coin Podcast.
And the sound of the gong means it is time once again for the Ancient Coin Podcast with Aaron Berk. I'm Mike Nodelman.
I'm Aaron Berk.
And we got a really good show for you tonight because we got an educational segment I'm really excited about. We have our Doofus Purchase of the week, and I think some expounding on that. I think we're going to expand it a little bit, and we have a really cool presentation this week. Aaron, what was it in auctions that really kind of because I know there were a lot of big auctions this week, and there were some big results.
We've had quite a few recently, but the big ones are really coming up. We covered the NAC one that's going to be coming up the beginning. It's actually the 18th and 19th of May, and I'm actually going to the auction. It's going to be in Zurich, Switzerland, so I leave on the 15th of May. So it's a week from Monday, and then Nomos is happening right after that, and then also which we're going to talk about tonight. Loy is happening the end of May, but Heritage and C&G also is the end of May as well. And then the Heritage auction was last night, which I participated in and won one nice big coin.
Yes, you did.
But anyway, let's talk about Nomos. So that's going to be coming up on May 21st and 22nd. And the first sale is actually something interesting you don't typically see. And they're doing a sale just on fractions. So these are the smallest denominated coins. Most of these, if you look at the gram weights, you'll see that they're very, very tiny. 1 gram, 0.61 grams.
0.61.
These are the smallest coins in existence. And obviously probably one person's collection that spent many years putting together some beautiful examples of these very tiny coins. And still they don't have much real estate, but they have a lot of detail for such really small coins.
Are they all silver?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, it looks like
so.
But yes, the detail on them
silver.
are just amazing.
But it's 550 lots of tiny coins. There's a lot of major rarities in there. And so if you're really into fractions, which for collecting Greek silver, fractions are really a great way to go because you can get the best of the best and not spend an arm and a leg. So, you just have to deal with really tiny coins.
Yeah.
Which,
that's okay. They make magnifying glasses, right?
Right. But if you want to see a large collection of fractions from every city or a lot of cities, this is a great thing to just go and look over.
And it just keeps going on and on and on.
It does. And this will make for a good reference catalog in itself,
Sure.
If you get the catalog, if you just look at the online version, because it's, most auctions will only have a few fractions here and there. And this one is 550
lots. It's going to be one to bookmark.
Right. Exactly. And some very interesting and probably unknown examples as well. So that definitely worth looking at some point. But their main auction then is going to be the second day, which is going to be May 22nd. And I picked out a couple of examples which I thought were interesting. The first one is lot 1002. That is the Campania Cume Nomos. Campania is in southern Italy, and it was actually it's a Greek colony, but in Italy, obviously, and founded by settlers of Enobia in the 8th century BC, pretty early on. It's actually one of the very first Greek colonies in Italy at the time.
Now, can I
very important?
Can I make a guess about something?
Sure.
Is Campania kind of rural?
No, it's on it's on one side there's ocean, and then there's land, so it's a little bit of both.
Okay.
So it's the seaside basically. So and we know that well, one, we know where it's at. And number two, if you look at the coin itself, there was actually an oracle there as well. So an oracle was like, probably had a temple, and there were, leaders would go there to get answers about the future, the past, whatever, mostly the future. And so this oracle actually here would have been Sybil or Cybele of Cumae, and that's on the obverse of the coin. So she would have been the keeper or the at that oracle. And then on the reverse, we have this really cool sea monster, which is half woman, half dog, half fish. It's called a Scylla. And you'll see a Scyllas a lot on antiquities. I've had them on Greek vases. They're very, very cool things. And so the Scylla is said to kind of be close to the rocks in the water, where the boats would probably crash against the rocks and then sink. And this was supposed to be, maybe the Scylla was doing this to the boats, essentially, which was more or less just the ocean.
And if not, then the Scylla was killing the sailors, apparently.
Right. And the dogs were like this howling sound, which was probably just the howling of the winds and things like that, but they saw that as dogs.
I didn't see the dog heads until you mentioned them.
Yeah. So there's two on either one of her shoulders, and then there's one below. And so, it's interesting because it kind of reminds me of the Hounds of Hell as well. So
Cerberus, you mean?
Yes.
Okay.
Very good. And so, but obviously an interesting coin, and not something you typically see. It's a little rough, but
you can see on the obverse, particularly right off the portrait, where there's some metal missing from where they've restored the coin, where they...
I mean, that could have been in the die. That could be some die wear, or it's just corrosion.
Yeah, so, I mean, it looks more like corrosion.
Yeah, it probably is. But a nice, pleasant coin.
Very nice.
Which is pretty cool. And if you look below the Scylla, you'll actually see a muscle, a sea mussel that's underneath her.
Like a clam?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So that's a muscle below her. So which has to do with the ocean, obviously, as well. So sure. Which is cool. So anyway, so that's an interesting coin. And then if you go to the next coin, which is the Aspendus, lot 1099. Aspendus coins are very common. So Aspendus actually was part of Asia Minor in Turkey. It was a very important city. And the city of Aspendus actually was very wealthy. It had, did a lot with salt, oil, and wool. And there was a very large Roman theater that still exists there today. It's one of the largest preserved amphitheaters in the world. It held at 1.7 thousand people. So that's how big it was. And it was built so well that it's still standing today, which is pretty amazing. But if you go to the coin itself, you'll see
it looks like they're wrestling.
It's two wrestlers on the obverse of the coin. And typically the wrestlers are not very well done. These are great. These are really great wrestlers.
Oh no, they're chiseled. I mean, it's like you could see the calves and you could see the muscles.
Right.
And although I have to tell you that
grappling with each other.
Yeah. Although I have to tell you that my first impression when I saw it was it looked like he was kicking the other guy
in the nuts.
Well, kind of, yeah.
Well, I think if you look his hands down, so
right, and he's got his hand on his calf. That was what.
Right.
But yeah,
right. Let's hope that's his calf.
Those aren't pillows.
I see the toes. So,
now, on the other side, I do have a question because there's some symbolism here that I'm real familiar with. So the three-legged kind of, cartwheel thing, you see those on Isle of Man coins. So what is the symbolism on an ancient? What does that mean?
So it's a Triskelus.
Okay.
And the Triskelus, and the city of Aspendus actually used this as kind of their symbol. And it's supposed to show motion out from the center and moving outward, and it's supposed to just be movement or energy moving outward.
Sure.
Essentially is what it's supposed to mean.
It looks like it's running all by itself. So
yeah. And in fact, the Greeks actually use spirals as well. They had spiral fibulas that basically kind of meant the same thing. You had the center point and energy moving outward. So, but on the reverse of this, you have a slinger. So the slinger actually slinging the bullets. And so there's a couple of thoughts here between the obverse and reverse. The obverse of the wrestlers could have been that during the first Olympic Games that the wrestlers from Aspendus were excellent, and so they wanted to portray that. It could have been two gods that were fighting each other, But
Yeah.
let's go with the sport. And then on the reverse of this with the slinger, it could be said that it was actually the gods fighting, or that there was very good slingers that came from Aspendus, or the actual name Aspendus in Greek means sling.
So maybe it's an origin story.
So it might be an origin story as well. So there's, nobody really knows for sure, but one of the most popular coins to collect because of the wrestlers. And in fact, whenever the Summer Olympics start happening, we end up selling a lot of these coins because of the wrestlers.
Well, yeah, I would imagine so. It seems to really be Olympic themed, because of the sport that's taking place on it, regardless of who's doing it.
Right.
And this one in particular is another one that is just absolutely chiseled. It's like you see muscles on these guys. You see,
Yeah, and if you look at most, I didn't show you a Aspendus, but most Aspenduses are, the wrestlers are there, but they don't have motion like this. They don't have the leg up like this. They're usually embraced at the front top, but you don't see their faces so well a lot of times. This one is really fantastic for the coin type. It's really, this is like 1 in 10,000.
This was state of the art.
It was just a good die cutter. So, and it has a cool pedigree. It was Sternberg was very famous in early on, from like the 1950s, 60s, all the way up through the 80s, early 90s. Very important auction house. And then Munson Medallion also was very important auction house. That goes back to 1970 with them. So a fantastic coin of a very common type that you typically see, but not in this kind of artistic merit.
That's beautiful.
It is. So it's worth looking at the Nomos sale. There's some really amazing things. I just picked out a couple of things I thought were interesting that we hadn't really discussed yet. There are a lot of coins that we've already discussed, so I didn't want to really hash out coins we've already done. Maybe we'll do it in a year when nobody remembers. But
sure.
For now,
fair enough.
This was that. So so moving on to the Doofus Purchase, which we haven't had in a while, but
yeah, we're due.
And I always kind of get thrown into this because of those damn stars on the slab.
Okay, now wait a minute. I have a question really quick for you. Would you say that there are more Doofus Purchases done on coins like this one, particularly Athenian owls, because of their popularity that crosses, genres?
Well, I think it's actually on any starred coin that's of popular type collecting. So, for instance, I could have picked the Doofus. There was a Lysimachus that sold last night for $20,000, and it's a nice coin, but there's been Lysimachuses that have brought that much money. So it's not outlandish. It was way too much for the coin, but I wouldn't necessarily call it Doofus. But there's, sometimes, when you get a star on gold octagrams from Egypt, they go for really stupid money, more than they should. But on coins like this, so, this, do you have the Athens up right now?
I do.
Okay. So this Athens last night, they started at 4,000 because it was that choice mint state star 5555, and it brought 20,000 and some change last night.
That's crazy.
If I had this coin, I wouldn't charge more than $2,000, maybe $2,500. It's not even a full crest. I don't think it's that nice of a coin stylistically. And this was really strictly bought for the star.
Yeah, I mean, this coin just doesn't look that nice. I've seen so many other owls that just look better.
Yeah, I mean, maybe in person it's got really amazing,
well, the surfaces out front,
luster,
but the surfaces out front of the bust look bad. Now the reverse, I think you really can see from this photograph. There's a lot of luster. I mean, there's a lot, right?
Well, and I think that there is a lot of luster even on the obverse, and I think that's why you're not getting a great photo.
Well, there
That's
is,
why
but I
that's why
also
videos help.
I'm looking at the field in front of it though, and it's like
Yeah.
you can see the striations and stuff like that, which is
Correct.
not good.
Correct. But sometimes when you get these mirrored finishes on these coins,
Yeah, I
with
guess
so
they're
much
going to show
luster,
every single hairline.
it's really hard to photograph them. So I won't take that away from it. I'm sure that it deserved a high ranking and a high mint state, but giving it a star, I don't know if that's was necessary on a coin like this. And obviously someone paid way too much money for it.
Well,
And
mostly
we'll get
probably
into,
because of the star.
right. And we'll get into this area. And the other thing too is that you have to remember this is the most common coin in the ancient world. And there is a large group of these that came onto the market back in 2017, 2018. And so there are so many of these out there that if you're patient, you can get a fantastic quality one, both obverse and reverse for, okay, you'll spend a lot of money, but you're not going to spend $20,000. You'll spend maybe $5,000 to get a really fantastic one.
But you'll have an exceptional coin.
You'll have an exceptional one, and there's no reason why you can't spend $3,000 to get an exceptional one. Even at $3,000 right now, I would think you can get. And I'll show you. We'll get into deeper in the educational section on this, but I always, and I've mentioned this, don't buy common coins in auction, and this is a perfect example.
That was episode 1.
Right. There's no reason to buy a coin like this. And obviously, look, there's a market for starred mint state coins, right? But how long will there be a market for mint state coins? Because I'll give you an example of what happened. They and in the educational section as well. But ultimately, again, we'll get into this a little bit further, but there was a lot of scratch your head prices last night in the heritage auction. Some will say that the coin I bought was a head scratcher in its own way, but what I bought was a unique, quality, very tough coin, and so it was just a matter of who wanted to pay more for it because it was such a rarity. So as far as the quality and the pedigree goes for the specific type, so I bought last night. And maybe I'll probably have it in a video when I get the coin. But I bought the Brutus Idmar coin out of Heritage last night for $600,000, not including the 20%. So with the 20%, it was $720. That coin was already the record holder at 450, I think, or 475 back in 2012 when Heritage sold it. But it was owned by the Hunt brothers, the famous Hunt brothers who cornered the silver market in the 80s, who had an amazing coin collection. And it was also in a stack sale from 67. It was also, my company had it in early 2000. We bought the coin for 100,000, put it out at 120, couldn't sell it for a year because the coin market back then was terrible. And we ended up selling it to a client in Canada for 112,000 on payments. That's how bad the market was. And so then Heritage, a number of years later, sold it for 475, which was a crazy price back then. But, now we paid 600, 720 for it, and so but it has pedigree going all the way back to the 1930s. So, and it's a lot of the Idmars these days. If you look at Idmars, most of us can't afford them. But if you look at the Idmars that have come up, they have very rough surfaces. And that is because a lot of them came from a group from Greece that were either cleaned improperly or just were ruined from being in the ground. And so they all have these really bad rough surfaces, and this one has beautiful surfaces because it's not from that group. And so what was funny is they didn't give it a star, which I thought was weird because there's a few Brutus.
Now you want a star? Pedigreed. Now you're crazy about stars.
I was glad there wasn't, but it doesn't matter. So, but some will say that was a crazy price, but if my client hangs on to it for 20 years, who knows? Maybe it sells for $1.5 million. I mean,
you know what though? Here is the one thing for all the detractors that say, Aaron's just got a bent for, starred coins. Here is where it paid off, because the fact of the matter is that you bought a coin without a star, knowing it was a superior coin.
I did. I mean, I didn't think it would go to 600 hammer, and neither did my client. And I didn't advise my client to go that high. He was on the phone with me telling me how high to go. So for those of you who think I advised my client to spend that much, I did not. I was just a catalyst for him during the auction. So, I would have thought like
you were there to say, no, don't do that.
No, I was there to initiate his bid.
Oh, that's true too. But I mean, wouldn't it also be part of your purview to advise and say, you know what, you probably shouldn't?
Well, with this particular client, he tells me how high he's going to go, and he doesn't tell me until the auction's going on. So I have no idea where he's going to go. And if he asked for my advice, I would have said 450, no more, maybe 500, and that's it. So I personally wouldn't have bid up to 600,000, but I'm glad we did because I love the coin, and
sure.
I don't think it's a bad buy. And in fact, my dad's coming out. He's finishing up, for all you guys that love the 100 Greatest Ancient Coin book. My dad's working on the 3rd edition. So that Eidmar is going to replace the Eidmar that's in the book. So it's going to be a plate coin in the 100 Greatest book. So that's a good thing for my client as well, and for the coin's pedigree, because it has this long pedigree of owners, which is
it's a beautiful coin. I mean, it really is.
It is
for silver Eidmars, which are not exactly common anyway. It is an absolutely beautiful coin.
Well, what's really funny is that coin, when we were developing our ancient coin databases, we built all of our databases in house from scratch, and that Eidmar is in the ancient coin database is our
sample.
What do you want to call it? It's our sample photo before you actually make an image. So it's been there for.
I see it every time I open up the database
since we had the coin. So
that's this coin
back in 2000. So, which is funny. So it's kind of coming back home, which is kind of cool. Which was the same with the hold gold Eidmar, because my dad bought that for a client once. So it's nice seeing these coins come back through Aaron Berk. So I'm excited about that for many reasons. So anyway, we got an interesting educational section this time, Mike.
We do.
So I thought it would be interesting to talk about how to catalog specific coins. And so I want to just give a quick little synopsis for you guys that are advanced collectors. This is going to be boring for you, but for you new collectors, this is cool information.
Yay.
And yeah, exactly. And since we're trying to teach Mike how to understand ancient coins, this was an eye opener for him.
Yes.
So, there are specific works that were done that have lasted the test of time. And this set of books by Martin Price, who was the curator of Greek coins at the British Museum. He wrote these 2 books, I believe, in 1991, and they're still used today. Now, look, not every die symbol is in the book, but most of them are. And so the set is out of print. You can probably pick up a set these days. They used to sell for $300 a set. I've seen them go for $450 and $500 a set. But it's basically Alexander the Great and Philip III and a couple other descendants, mostly those 2. And it covers all the gold staters of Alexander, all the tetradrachms, all the drams. And so how do we catalog these? So as Alexander was conquering the world, he was taking over mints in different regions, right? And so those mints had to have symbols on the coins that would show that they were from those cities. And based on specific combinations, we can understand not only where the coin was minted or when the coin was circulating as well. Because Alexander died in 323 BC, and they were still making images of his coins for up to 200 years after his death. So, which is pretty incredible. So if you go to the next slide, I just picked out an average interesting Alexander the Great tetradrachm. And if you look to the left of Zeus on the reverse, you'll see a lambda and then below it, you'll see a torch. Now, you may not know that's a torch. After you've been looking at these symbols for years and years and years, you understand what certain things are. And under the throne of Zeus, you see like a little squiggle there. That's actually a dolphin. And when I tell you it's a dolphin, now you can see the dolphin. You can see the head, and then you see the tail kind of going up towards the top of the chair. Okay, so based on these three symbols, we can then start to figure out where in the book this is. Okay, and in this particular one, we see that it's price 485. Okay, and we see that it was from the Amphipolis Mint, issued between 315 and 294 BC. So that's after the death of Alexander, right? Because Alexander's 336 to 323. Amphipolis was in Greece. A lot of coins with torches can come from Amphipolis, so you can kind of get an idea of where some of the stuff comes from. But let's go in deeper, right? So if we go to the next slide, in the book, in the price book, he actually breaks down some of the symbols here. So if you look on the left, you'll see all these pictures, right? And if you look 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth row down, and the fourth from left to right, you'll see the torch. And then there's a long torch, but we know this is just a torch based on the size of the symbol that we saw. So, and so for that one, if you then, now you realize what it is. So if you don't know what the symbol is, you can actually look on this list and find what the symbol was. So now you know what to look it up. And in the beginning of the books, they actually break down all the symbols. And so on the right here, they do it all alphabetically, and you get to torch, and you'll see it's broken down by metal. So AU is a symbol for?
AU is gold.
That's right.
Aurum.
And AR is?
Argentum. That is silver.
Silver. And then we get all the way down to bronze, AE. And it's broken down by tetragram and then drams. Okay, by the DR there. And if you look, if you go down a little bit, it says AR, that's for tetragram, and then left field, LF, and it says Amphipolis, 438 to 497. But it can also be in Paeonia. There was a torch in 643. These are all different mints that all of these could have showed up in. And so you basically then have to go, because they don't do the thrones all the time. Like there it says throne below it, where it says TH for throne. But so the first place we're going to go is we're going to go to Amphipolis. So if you go to the next page, so here you can do it from the photos themselves. So this would be one page of photos in the price book, and then the text version. And so not every symbol combination is photographed in the book, but it's all represented in the text, right? So we go to where Amphipolis is, and we go down to number 485. We see left field, lambda, torch, throne, dolphin, right. So now we have matched everything up, and we know this is price 485.
Wow.
Okay. And there's the coin below to kind of give us a cross reference to that. And if you look 485B, you can see it has the same symbol. It has the dolphin. It has the torch in the photograph.
Dolphin under the throne.
And then in the text version, if you start to, it's not on this page, but if you scroll, if you go back a page, it gives the circa dates. And then as a circa date changes, it gives another listing for circa dates. So basically you just would go back until you find where the circa date started for this whole series. And then you know when it was issued. And so you can do the same thing with gold staters, with drams. Also, the name of Alexander is on the coin. That's the legend on the right by Zeus, where Zeus is seated behind him. It says his name, Alexander. So for Philip, it has a different, obviously it has Philip's name. So it'll have a different name. And so, and then it's usually symbolized in the price book. P is symbolized for Philip III. So typically,
because you're only talking about two different emperors.
Yes,
Alexander
and Philip III was Alexander's. I believe he was mentally impaired, and so he never took ruling at all. And he may have been an older brother. I'm not 100% on that. But obviously he did issue a lot of coins as well after Alexander's death. So, and then other descendants were issuing, looking like the coins of Alexander, but were under Seleucus, and some of the other generals of Alexander the Great as well. So, but that's basically how you would catalog a coin of Alexander the Great.
Cool.
Yeah. So, you got any questions for me, Mike? Does that seem pretty?
No, actually, that's so straightforward. I mean, it's like as you were talking about it, I was looking, and then I started to look at the coins on the right, and I'm like, wow, that's Lambda, Torch, Dolphin.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's like, okay, now I see it. You know, that's
Right.
kind of cool.
It's pretty easy, but I think when you
going back
when
to
you first look,
to the dating and stuff like that, you know, that's a little bit tougher.
Right.
But attributing the coin really wasn't that bad at all.
No. No. And if you go back to slide 2.
Yeah.
Go up one.
Oh, okay.
There you go. So here you can see this is typically how we would write up a coin. And we have the Amphipolis issued between 315 and 294. We have the description, but then there's other references obvious well. So there's S&G Munich. So you could look it up in there, and they give a range. It could be 329 and 330. But basically, it's also in the British Museum, BMC. So we use different references, but price will always be used in most Alexander the Greats. They even put a seer one in here, but it's like a seer. Seer doesn't cover most coins. They just do the bare minimum because they're covering everything in one little handy book. So there'll always be just a variety of the type. It won't be the exact type. So, and you're going to always need references like this to get to the nitty gritty of it.
Very cool.
So if we want to go to slide 5, we're going to get deeper into the Doofus Purchase. So this was the coin that's sold. Yeah, this is the coin, because I say Doofus, and I don't want to
we don't want to malign anybody. That's not really what we're saying. But
I also want to explain the position of it. I could tell you, hey, it was a crazy price. People who know ancient coins know it was a crazy price. But I don't think a lot of our viewers who don't know, they don't understand why it is. And so I want to explain why it is and why it's really important to always buy the coin, not the plastic. And here's why. So this is the coin that sold last night. If you go to the next slide, Mike, this coin is for the type. So this is just a mid-range styled Athens tetragram. There's earlier issues that are archaic that bring good money. There are the late ones that look really ugly that sell for like $500. This is the mid-range one where they made millions and millions and millions of these, right? And when back in 2018, this coin broke the record for this type by a long shot. If I had this coin today, I wouldn't. Again, it's a $2,000 coin. Maybe it's $2,500 tops. It's not full crust. It's not that attractive of a coin. But this coin back in 2018 sold for $36,000.
Holy, wow!
And it was because it was a star 5555, and at the time, NGC said it was the finest graded pop one for all the Athens from this type that they had seen.
Yeah, but what percentage of the population of Athens had they seen at that point?
10,000 coins out of 2 million.
Right. That's
something
nothing.
like that, but it's hard to say how many, but Heritage put in exactly what NGC said, that it was the pop one. And of course, then two people think it's the finest known. Mm-hmm. And so you can argue that, okay, NGC didn't mean for that to happen, but it's one of these things, Heritage,
they didn't go out of their way for it to not happen either.
Right. And so it's kind of like leading the lambs to slaughter, especially when you don't know anything about ancient coins. You see, this is the highest pop one. You think, oh, I'm getting the greatest coin ever made by Athens. And that's not true. So, and we know that this, in auctions, anything can happen, right? You need two people to tango. I'm sure Heritage never realized that thought this was going to go to 36,000, but I'm sure they were very happy when it did. especially for a coin that should only sell for $3,000 or $4,000 at most, goes for 36,000, 10 times what the coin is worth. And, or is that 30 times? I don't know. So
no, it's 10 times. You're right.
10 times. Yeah, my math isn't working tonight. So a year later, this exact coin was put up for auction. Now, I always advise people, don't put something in auction, especially when you paid a top price for it, the next year. It's not very smart.
No.
You want, unless you bought a good deal on it and you think you can make money, fine. But it's not smart to do it right away, especially when you pay a record price. And in fact, this particular coin still holds the record because it was such a ridiculous price. It was the ultimate doofus price. So, but when the client put it back up in 2019, it still sold for a lot of money, but it sold for $19,200, which
markedly
is
less,
hell of a lot less than what he paid, what that client paid. But according to the Heritage website, the person who bought it for 19.2 used their make an offer owner program system, and they sold it for 43,500 in 2022. So even though the first person lost money, the second person made money and actually sold it for more, but because it was a private sale and not a public auction, it's not in the public records.
Yeah.
So
that person can now lose money on it.
Right. Exactly. And so if you go to the next slide, we can see exactly when these auctions happen. So here it is in 2018, selling for 30,000 a hammer, not including the buyer's premium. And if you look there, it says the single finest graded example seen by NGC in the description.
It does say that.
So
but
that's
seen
what people
is not existent.
Correct. But when you don't know anything about ancient coins and you're buying them and people think, well, I'm buying them certified, so they're authentic,
and
which
they
is true.
say it's the finest one they've ever seen.
And they say it's the finest one they've ever seen, but they don't realize that the other 90% of the market isn't slabbing ancient coins.
Right.
And so it's not every coin that they've seen. It's just what they've seen. And so if you ask them, you say, well, yes, it's completely true.
Well, but this really illustrates my question from earlier, is that this specific coin, the Athens tetradrachm, is it because of its popularity more prone to this happening because you get people, I'm not even talking about like me, I'm talking about just average run-of-the-mill people that are not coin collectors, trying to bid on these.
Let me put it this way. This was the Morgan dollar of its day. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Are Morgan dollars highly collectible?
No. No, they're not.
I mean, they are collectible.
They're collectible, right? But not highly collectible. They're common, and you can find nice ones.
But they're common, right?
Yes.
They're common, right?
That was a great analogy.
For Athens tetradrachms, they're very common, and they are very popular still today. Mm-hmm. And even with the large group that came on the market, even though the prices sagged in some areas, they've still held their ground because of the high demand of these things. So it is a popular coin for that reason, and most people can get one because they are so plentiful in the market. So,
well, I will tell you that of all the ancients that we've seen so far, that I've seen so far, it is by far my favorite.
It is for most people. You have an owl, you have Athena, you have Athens,
beautiful.
Which is this incredible time period.
Yeah.
So there's a lot.
Artistically, it's really good too. So
right. So if you go to the next slide. Here's the same coin selling a year later for 16,000 plus the juice. So anyway, just to kind of show.
It looks like it's been cleaned in between.
I don't think it came out of the slab. So.
Okay, maybe not. It's just bad. It's just a bad photo.
So now let's show you other coins, right? So go to the next slide, Mike. Here's a coin that sold in January of this year, 2023, at Heritage. It was also a star 5545, but it has a full crest.
This one looks so much nicer.
And it sold for $5,500. So it's far better than the one that sold for $43,000 with their trade-in. It's far better than the one that sold last night for $20,000.
I was going to say at $5,500, this may have even been a bargain.
I think it's priced accordingly. But I think as for star coins go, it was a bargain. If you collect stars, it was a bargain.
I'm not even talking that. I'm just talking about from what we've been looking at and what the price. It's like I think that this is really.
I probably wouldn't ask more for that coin. honestly,
Okay.
than that. So,
Well, yeah,
just
it's
because,
probably hitting its limit.
yeah, I think so. All right, now let's look at raw coins. Go to the next slide, Mike. Here's a full crest. It's not great. It's got a little double striking under the chin, but look at that crest. I mean, that's full crest. You have to have a small Athena head to be able to get the full crest. Most full crests don't appear on coins of Athens. They're very difficult to get. This one sold for $4,600. So not a terrible price. But again, a full crest is far more desirable than any of the ones we sold for huge money. If you go to the next slide, very pleasant coin. Again, it's not a full crest, but it has a lot of the crest there. It's pretty. It sold for $1,500. That's a fair price for it. It has a little scratch on the cheek, but it's not a bad coin at all. In fact, this was in a slab. So, and I think it was didn't have a star, but it was a high ranking from what I remember. These are all coins that sold within the last year or so. If you go to the next slide, very pleasant coin, really, nice on both sides. Again, not a full crest, but so were the ones that sold for 40 grand. Maybe it doesn't have the full luster of those coins, but Mike, this coin sold for $1,000.
Wow.
It's a nice, solid coin.
That is a really
$1,000.
nice coin for that. It doesn't have any of the corrosion that some of the other ones have.
Yeah, it's not going to have the same luster. It's not going to be a luster bomb. But guess what? Ancient coins, yeah, you like luster, but it's not, I wouldn't pay $40,000 for an Athens coin when I can get this for $1,000.
Well, particularly, okay, so we're talking about a 2,000-year-old coin that has like mid-state luster on it. To me, that just sets off all sorts of red flags anyway.
It does. It does. If you go to the next slide, Mike. Again, nice coin. You can see the difference in the owl. So this is an earlier die for the type. And so it's a little bit more desirable because of that die type. It has a scratch on the cheek. But again, look at the lips, how strong they are, how detailed the chin is and the nose.
Yeah, it doesn't have a full crest, but what's there is really, really
And what do you think this
strong.
coin sold for, Mike?
What do I think this one sold for? Okay.
Yeah.
Now, there's what I think it should sell for and what I think it sold for. I'm going to guess that it sold for $1,500.
950.
Okay. It should sell for like $4,000.
I would say, between 1,800 and 2,300. So yeah, in that range.
Well, I'm pricing U.S. coins.
It has the scratch on the cheek, but it's not terrible,
No, it really looks nice.
No. Now, what could else? Now, look, if you go back to that coin that sold for 34 and then supposedly sold for 43,000, what else could you have bought for that money? Go to the next slide, Mike. One more down. Okay. This is an archaic owl. Okay. This is the beginning of Athens. These are not pretty, but they're highly desirable because this is the beginning of coinage of Athens. This coin sold for $9,500.
Yeah, I was going to say this one looks like for what it is, like it's an incredible specimen of that.
It is. It's very nice for the type. $9,500. I mean, I'd much rather have that than that other coin.
I agree.
This coin will always hold its value on a certain level, but the other coin, if you can see, it's a roller coaster ride because it's a matter of what buyers are there to get the star coins and not understand coins.
It's
where it's going to end up.
It's easy to understand by looking at the other coin, that yes, it's struck better. Yes, the art is better defined. Yes, it seems to be clearer. But that's not what this is about. This is older and it's more I mean, this is way more important.
Right. Go to the next slide, Mike. You could have bought yourself a Syracuse 100 litra gold coin for $22,500. This is one of the more sought after coins in the Sicilian series. This is a beautiful coin. We profiled these. Some of these have gone for $50,000 and $75,000. $22,500. You could have had that over the coin that sold yesterday for $20,000 and some change. Why would you ever want an Athens over a coin like this?
Hercules fighting the lion.
No reason. And the ultimate, go to the next slide. For a little bit more, $39,000 for a Syracuse decagram, one of the most famous coins in all of Greek coinage.
And this one is hammered.
So, I mean, it has some abrasions, but these coins are going for 50, 60, 70,000 and up. I mean, there was a couple that sold. There was an excellent one actually in the Heritage sale last night. It was lot one. It sold for 150,000, and that was actually cheap because it was a chemone type, and it was beautiful, really amazing. And I've seen coins sell for a hell of a lot more than that for that type, and so that was actually a bargain for that type. So, but anyway, my whole point is that there's no reason to put all your money into overpaying for a star when you could get something much nicer. That will actually hold its value a lot longer and bring you a lot more joy, in my opinion. So that when I mention these doofuses, there's reasons behind them, and you can see the reasons.
Yeah, no, it's to try and take it and make it a teachable moment.
Correct. So, and if you go all the way back up, Mike, to the very beginning of this, or one slide down. What would you rather have, the decagram or that? What would you rather?
No, I'd rather. I just got through telling you that this is my favorite coin. I agree with you. I'd rather have the decagram.
Yeah, of course. So anyway, so that's my educational portion for tonight. I hope you all enjoyed. So
that was very cool.
So Mike, what's our pearl of wisdom tonight?
Pearl of wisdom for tonight. When the cat's away. No. Let's see. What is our pearl of wisdom? Knowledge.
My cat's never away.
Knowledge is power, is money. So I have long said in the realm of U.S. coins that the person standing on the side of the counter that knows the most usually wins. I would say that overall with coins, subject knowledge will protect you from making common mistakes. Now, it's like the complex ones are going to happen. Even people like Aaron are going to make mistakes. That's going to happen with really complex ones. Yes. But eliminating simple mistakes will make your collection better. It will give you more money to spend on your collection. And, thereby just enhancing the whole experience.
It's true. What I was thinking about yesterday, and when you brought this up to me, it just came back into my head, and it's kind of a scary thought, but do you think that eventually AI will replace the coin dealer on some level? Because with AI and image recognition, eventually AI could then sort through a whole catalog and tell you exactly which coin was the best one for the quality, give you auction prices without you having to do any work whatsoever.
Okay, so I'm going to answer you in my typical cryptic way. We see things in the future as like the Jetsons, right? It's like we're flying around, and it's never quite really how it works. So the way I see it is that AI is going to get better and better, and it is going to be people using AI as a tool. Right. I think that dealer is going to be irreplaceable, and I think that the AI is going to be indispensable as a tool. So it'll help you accomplish volume, and it'll help you search through things, but you knowing the people, you knowing what they want, those kind of things, I still don't think you can replace the human element.
Well, you could have an AI that you input the needs of your clients.
Only as good as the programmer.
That's true, but they're already talking about this. I was watching AI, and for instance, they want to make sure that they don't give, there's all these new smart weapons, and they want to make sure they don't give AI control of those because they could destroy us.
Well, it's that whole 2001 Space Odyssey, right? It's like, I'm sorry, Dave, I can't do that.
Correct.
So we're gonna
war games or the movie war games.
Yeah. So I think that we're always gonna kind of keep a human lid on that, just out of fear.
Right. Well, they were saying the U.S. is gonna probably we always want to have a human that's gonna push the nuke button. That isn't gonna ever be a computer that's gonna just do it. But they said the news story was talking about the fact that not all countries will follow exactly what we do. There could be a madman out there who has AI control everything that they're doing, and AI decides to launch some missiles.
And that's the thing is that once it gets beyond human control,
right,
we're all done.
It's true.
We're all in
It's
that
true.
same basket of eggs. So
we're all like, they were like yesterday, they were saying, like eventually maybe we'll go to a 4-day work week because we won't have to work as hard because we don't need 5 full days of work, in the standard 5-day week. And so if computers and AI is making things move faster, we won't have to work as long.
I'm going to call BS on that, because the fact of the matter is that you're still going to get 5 days worth of work out of people. It's like you're just going to get more done.
Well, I just figure I won't be alive that long. So
I hope not. I'll be gone long before that stuff.
But anyway, I got off on a tangent on AI because I was worried about being replaced. But
I don't think you got to worry about that. Not in your lifetime. Now,
No,
your
probably.
kids
Well,
may have to worry about that.
Yeah, maybe.
They may have to deal with
look,
that.
they're already getting to a point now where they have to have programs to make sure kids aren't, using AI to plagiarize, essentially.
Yes. Yeah.
And so they have to actually have programs
How could you
against
tell?
that.
How could you tell whether it's your kid writing it or it's AI writing it if the AI is really good? It's like, no,
Right,
it's like,
right. And
no, my
they were
kid's
talking
not
about
this smart.
they were talking about the other day that songwriters could get replaced because they were saying eventually that AI could come up and start writing songs.
Well, again, I think that it will happen, but I just think
Right.
it's going to be part of it. It's never going to take over. It's not.
It's an
gonna be
interesting
that.
conversation, for sure. And
And
AI
as
is
Russ
getting
would
better.
say,
Right.
I welcome our robot overlords. So,
Mr. Roboto.
yes, Domo.
So anyway, no, but I was watching this one program. They had AI in a college classroom, and all these kids wrote papers, and some of them used AI and some of them didn't. And it was like 50-50. And there was like one of the people who actually wrote the paper said that the AI said that they plagiarized, and they didn't. So
That's
it's
what I
getting
mean.
to a
It's
point.
like it's the written word. I don't think that you're going to be able to tell the difference.
Right. Well, and just like I just saw in the news tonight that I forget the famous singer, but he was being sued by an older.
I do know who you're talking about, because he got for plagiarizing himself.
No, he was plagiarizing an older singer, and he won his case today.
Yeah, and he did. But my thought was first John Fogerty, but no, it's somebody who won their case today.
Oh, Fogerty did too. Yes, Fogerty.
Yes.
In fact, he's going to be going on tour singing songs again.
He was plagiarizing himself, which is a little different.
But he didn't own any of the rights to his songs. That was the problem.
But he still wrote it, so it's kind of that's a little tough.
So, because I just saw an interview with him, and he's actually going to be going on tour again, and he's excited because he's going to be playing his own.
Well, yeah,
songs.
he hasn't been out on tour because he absolutely refused to,
right,
go out there without playing his stuff.
Anyway, we got off.
Yeah,
the
we are way off the ancient coins. So
we are. But no, you're absolutely right. Knowledge and has always been a big key with in my business. Like if I know more than the dealer, then I'm going to make more money than he is. I'm going to be able to pick off coins that he doesn't know that he has underpriced because I have better knowledge or I have a place to go with it.
Well, in the U.S. world, we were talking about Morgan Dollars earlier. It's like VAM hunters, and to be honest with you, I don't have time to learn it all. So they can come in, they can start picking through stuff. That's the way it goes. That's specialized knowledge, and it'll make you money.
Well, it's not just knowledge, it's also patience. A lot of people don't have patience to go through every box and every coin. But if you have the patience and the knowledge, you can make a lot of money.
But that's a different trait. I'm talking knowledge, and patience is something else. You have to have with stamina. That's the word.
Right.
Because you really have to power through it.
You do. So anyway, well, that was a good show, Mike, I think.
Yeah, except for the sidetrack. We'll see how people like that one. Anyways, so thank you, Aaron, for putting together that really good educational segment. I really like that. And I think more attribution, because that really, really helped. That really did something.
Yeah, it does. And we're all a little, I don't know, it's not jaded, but we're all a little lazy in our attributions because of all of the information that's on the internet and coin archives and AC search and everything like that we end up not, cataloging our own coins. Even dealers that have the references are lazy and they just reproduce, descriptions that are around the coins. And the problem with that is that we do it all the time. We recatalog coins and find mistakes because somebody copied the same mistake over and over and over again because they weren't actually referencing, looking up the coin.
Yeah, all it takes is for something to be misattributed once.
Correct.
And then people to be lazy after that, and it just follows it around and is completely inaccurate.
It's telephone. It's the game telephone, right? It's just going to keep on going in that direction until somebody says, wait, that's not right.
Yeah.
So anyway,
so thank you for listening. And I don't know, you got anything else for him?
No, thanks for listening. Please follow the YouTube page.
Yeah, like and subscribe.
And share with your friends as well. And thanks everybody who's come up to me at shows or sent me emails or told me on the phone how much they like the show.
We have gotten a lot of positive feedback. We've gotten a lot of positive feedback, and it's been really cool. It's a pleasure doing this, and we're more than happy to bring it to you.
And thanks to Bellinger for being our sponsor.
It's funny because I thought you were going to ask me what I was drinking, and I was going to tell you, it's funny. I have a little bit of Bellinger.
Oh, you do?
Yes, I do.
Nice.
A little red blend tonight.
Nice. I'm out of my reds, so but I
think there's somebody who could do something about that.
Oh, maybe. But I have a white left, so I haven't tried the Chardonnay yet. So
yeah,
we'll get on
buttery
that
Chardonnay.
So anyway, thanks guys for watching. I really appreciate everything, all the feedback and all the support. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. So that's it for the Ancient Coin Podcast. We will talk to you next time, and thanks for listening. So long, everybody.
Thanks for listening to the Ancient Coin Podcast with Aaron Berk. We'll return with another episode soon. Meantime, you can join our private group on Facebook. Just go to facebook.com and search the Groups tab for Ancient Coin Podcast Discussion Group and ask to join. There you can become part of our community, where we share and discuss ancient coins, as well as the show, the ancient coin market, auctions, or just to give our own opinions on things in order to learn together. Join Aaron and Mike again soon for the next episode of the Ancient Coin Podcast with Aaron Berk.